Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to the start of an all new series, today jumping in with the F1 Fantasy mod. Yes, of course, if you missed out on the video that I did a couple of weeks ago with this mod, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. But of course, with my team all wrapped up, I wanted to do a bit of a fun, a bit of a kind of less serious, short series to finish out the year here inside F1 25. So we're going to be jumping in with a 10-race quickfire season, hopefully over the next few weeks, and I'm actually running it in the APX GP team. Yes, I'm running this through the Mighty mode inside of the game. Honestly, we're not going to be looking at much going on in the background. This is just going to be a one-season championship, 10 races, and hopefully is going to be good fun, and just something a little bit different. Of course, yeah, like I said, I'll make sure I leave a link to the F1 Fantasy mod down in the description below if you want to take a look at it. It changes a huge amount of things inside the game, including the teams, including the drivers, as well as a couple of other bits and pieces. So Isaac Hadjar is over at Red Bull alongside Lando Norris. Lando Norris has stayed at McLaren. Charles Leclerc over at Ferrari, but Carlos Sainz is back at McLaren inside this game as well. Valtteri Bottas is with the all-new Volkswagen team. Verstappen has gone to Mercedes AMG T-Mobile. Kimi Antonelli is down at Ferrari. George Russell is at Genesis Magma Racing. Pierre Gasly down at Repsol Williams. Nico Hülkenberg over at Monster Ford Andretti. Franco Colapinto actually alongside Isaac Hadjar at the Red Bull team. And then Esteban Ocon is George Russell's teammate inside of the series as well. You've got Paul Aaron and Ollie Behrman over at Rocket Rodin. Gabriel Bortoleto is down at VW alongside Bottas, with Richard Verschoor and Pepe Marti down at Chip Ganassi. Alex Albon is at Mercedes AMG T-Mobile. Oscar Piastri is over at Monster Ford Andretti as well, with Yuki Tsunoda down at Repsol Williams. I am Sonny Hayes for this series, just for the sake of it. And then we've obviously got Joshua Pierce as our teammate as well there. Like I said, we've got a 10-race season. It'll kickstart today in Albert Park, Australia, before we head out to the Middle East for the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Monaco, of course, the jewel in the Formula 1 crown. I know I don't normally run it inside this game, but hopefully for this one, it's going to be good fun. Austria and then Silverstone before we head to our one and only sprint race out at Belgium. Monza, of course, the Temple of Speed before the Singapore and Las Vegas Grand Prix to finish out the campaign. I tried to pick 10 circuits that A, provide good racing, but also might allow some interesting stuff to happen as well. They kind of can be a little bit unpredictable as well. And just quickly, if we take a look at the performance of the car, Apex GP is actually pretty competitive inside this series. We are just behind Santander McLaren and Nismo Red Bull, just ahead of Ferrari and Mercedes as well. And then you can see Genesis, Rocket Rodin, VW, Chip Ganassi, Repsol Williams, and Monster Ford Andretti at the rear of the field then. So hopefully this is going to be a little bit of good fun. I'm normally just going to focus on the races inside of this series as well. But of course, I'm going to try and do some background admin-y bits as well. Not that it should be too critical. But yeah, without further ado though, let's head out to the Australian Grand Prix. Formula 1 is back then, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Australian Grand Prix. The start of an all-new season, all new teams, all new drivers. I am incredibly excited to be joining you here from the Albert Park circuit. All of that winter testing, it means nothing if you can't survive the 3.28 mile Albert Park circuit, a bumpy street circuit here in downtown Melbourne. And a fun fact, it's actually a track that I've driven before in real life as well. Sadly, not during a Grand Prix weekend, but I've got to take what I can inside this game. Taking a look, though, at our grid for the opening race, then, of the all-new campaign. Of course, always a great indicator to see what speed is like. Lando Norris will line up on pole position ahead of Isaac Hadjar in his Nismo Red Bull, joining him on the front row. Less than a tenth of a second in it between our top two. Franco Colapinto and Kimi Antonelli make up row 2 ahead of Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc there ahead of the VW pair of Bottas and Bortoletto. You can see Pierre Gasly just outside of your top 10, ahead of the likes of Hulkenberg and George Russell there. Joshua Pierce down in P15, with Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda making up the 9th row of the grid. Richard Verschoor and Oscar Piastri on row 10 with Pepe Marti and Ollie Behrman. A mistaken qualifying for him means he will line up at the rear of the field. A lot of work to do for him. Of course, a 22 car field today and all new teams, an exciting driver roster. McLaren and Ferrari, of course, always there in the sport, but the all-new Apex GP team as well. What can Sonny Hayes do inside of this game? What can Joshua Pierce do as well? Pre-season pace looked pretty good for the team. They seem to be fairly competitive up and down the grid as well, and well, getting one of those cars into the top 10. Sonny Hayes there, a brilliant lap during qualifying yesterday to get the effort done on what was a very, very soggy Saturday afternoon. Let's head down to the track. Well, here we are then, our very first race of the all-new mod, and I must admit, obviously, in that first video I did, it didn't have the handling update that Kevin had done to the game as well. So after a slightly slippery qualifying session yesterday, I feel like I've learned a lot more about the car and what we can expect. But obviously it's a bit of an unknown. We don't know how these Continental tyres are going to fare over a race stint as well. Obviously, you know, Australia is often the track where you stay quite bunched up, so maybe it's going to really struggle in the heat as well around this track. But happy to start the season with a top 10, and let's see what we can do then as we head into the race. The vibrant lights are on, and it's the lights out, and away we go then for this season opener. Gabriel Bortoletto getting a good start as Bottas, or maybe leaving a door open down the inside in towards turn 1 there. Of course, his return to the sport, and a bit of a sluggish getaway for the VW driver there, as we will go side by side with the Brazilian of those first couple of corners, and immediately then trying to just make up some ground as well. Don't go into the back of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari there, of course. Pretty much every team has seen a major rebrand with this mod, but Ferrari is always Ferrari, you know. I think it would be sacrilege to try and obviously modify that team as well inside of the game there, but it looks like then one of those Nismo Red Bulls has been able to take the lead up at the front of the order. I believe that might be Isaac Hadjar then, has immediately jumped up into P1 as here goes Max Verstappen in his Mercedes, trying to look around the outside of Charles Leclerc, not quite able to try and get a run there, as both of them getting a little bit caught up behind Carlos Sainz, as Leclerc just struggles with the understeer. Whoa, down the back straight. Are we going to be able to have a look in? No, we'll back out of that one. Don't want to risk any damage to the car on this opening lap there as well. Leclerc just about back out. But immediately then, you know, you've got to try and at least get your elbows out, showcase to everybody else that you are here to fight. And of course, with this being such a short season as well, you know, picking up big points early on is going to be critical. You cannot afford to have a weekend off inside this game, as there goes Leclerc to the inside of Verstappen, well, back towards turn 1 there, and once again, the Dutchman able to defend from him through turn 1. Isaac Hadjar still leads, though, up at the front of the order, but Lando Norris is going to try and give him a run for his money. Well, has Verstappen been able to stay in the DRS of the cars in front? Yes, he can, but that is still not going to stop Charles Leclerc and I from both trying to get a run to the outside of the Red Bull. So he does just about back out there. Clearly, Verstappen struggling a little bit early on in this race, but Leclerc now definitely not in the range of Carlos Sainz, who's been able to scamper back up the road towards that top group. Does look like the AI can spread out a little bit more. It is meant to be a little bit more tricky to kind of stay in the dirty air of the car in front of you for too long, but I mean, Australia has never been a particularly bad track, especially obviously with its more recent updates, to try and, you know, hang on to the car in front of you. But like I said, this first race is really more about learning, settling in, and, well, honestly, I'd just be happy if we picked up some decent points. Oh, there you go, Carlos Sainz now, trying to have a look around the outside of Kimi Antonelli. Must admit, Antonelli at Ferrari would be such a fascinating move to see in the future as well. There, of course, you know, had a couple of really good races towards of F1's IRL season. So Leclerc there, oh, you got to be so careful. Right when you get under the rear wing of the car in front, you can lose so much braking performance. And even there, you just see the back end slip sliding around as we will try and go for a bit of a cheeky send on Charles Leclerc through the final couple of corners. Quite going to be able to do that one, but you can see how much the car is moving around underneath you. As Bortoletto now in that VW has jumped Max Verstappen a little bit further behind. So yeah, the Dutchman is really struggling. Right, come on then, let's try and use some straight line speed. This APX GP car seems to be an absolute missile when we get out into the back stretch. So as we pull alongside Charles Leclerc, hopefully we're going to be able to make at least one move happen. As we have to dive to the outside of Carlos Sainz there. I think we were 3 wide temporarily, but we get the double overtake done then. Antonelli will obviously still have the DRS off of the corner, but he is now going to try and go and pursue Franco Colapinto up in P3 there, but it actually kind of incentivizes going for overtakes a bit more, because obviously if you stay behind the car in front, you have actually got less braking performance. Now, of course, as always, this is against 110 AI, but for the first time on the main channel, this series is also being done with strict track limits. I adopted it in the driver career mode, Season 4, obviously on Maximum 2 gameplay as well recently, so I am getting quite used to it for the most part, but still, you've just got to be really careful. Can we get a run on Antonelli here? No, we'll wait for the back straight. Well, based on the theoretical performance of this APX GP car, I feel like we didn't do as well in qualifying as we possibly could have done. But as we blow around the outside of Kimi Antonelli then up into 3rd place. Sorry, up into 4th place even, I should say there. As what's the tyre wear doing at the moment? 22% on the rear. So I don't think tyre wear is too bad, actually, at the moment. So it should still be a one-stop race. But as we come to the end of lap 7 then, Franco Colapinto now looks to be trying to attack his teammate Isaac Hadjar. And it would seem like this race is going to be between Red Bull Nismo and Santander McLaren. But it looks like now Lando Norris maybe has just been able to jump away from these two. It is great to see some different drivers fighting up at the front of the Formula 1 order there, but trying to make our way through this middle sector though, hopefully. I mean, again, this Apex GP car seems to be ridiculously fast in a straight line against a lot of the other cars around us, so hopefully we can try and use that to the best of our ability there, as get on the battery nice and early and try and keep it mashed to the floors. To the outside of Hadjar we will go. He's got nowhere to go though, as we will fly past Franco Colapinto as well then, and up into 2nd place of this Grand Prix. So we've had a really good drive so far, able to pick up the pieces, able to get through other battles and kind of leave other cars fighting. But Lando Norris, he is still out in front, and he's on the harder compounded tyre as well, so his pace does look to be very good here. I think my plan is dive into the pit lane probably at the end of 12, maybe the end of lap 13, but just manage this rubber towards the end of the stint. It's not too bad still, 37% on that rear left, so it's not going to be fantastic, but it shouldn't be too bad either. There we go, Isaac Hadjar then, very early pit stop in this Grand Prix, in at the end of just lap 9. So I think he's going to be on a 2-stop here, as it looks like nobody else seems to be following him in. But yeah, Mark there just coming over the radio telling me that Lando Norris does look incredibly fast at the moment. So we've just got to try and manage these medium tyres at this stage of the race. But again, I still think we're doing a pretty good job. Ooh, okay, Lando Norris. Lando Norris from the lead of the Grand Prix then, so clearly pushing hard in that Santander McLaren, and he is going to dive in before I have. So he must be on a 2-stop strategy then, as Antonelli now up to 2nd spot here, is just trying to make sure that I don't get done for track limits at any point. But things looking very good for us at the moment then, as a few drivers may be beginning to struggle to stretch their stints. Could we, I mean, surely we can try and get to the end on this next set of tyres. They're not looking awful, but it's still not guaranteed. And of course, a safety car or anything like that really could change up the order. into the pits then we will come at the end of lap 12. I was tempted to try and go an extra one. I don't want to screw over my teammate Pierce in this race. There is no risk taken on pit lane entry there. Antonelli, he will now take the lead in his Ferrari. But as we dive in then, hopefully the team can give me a decent first pit stop of the year. And no, they haven't.
The left front wheel. We need to try and put that behind us though and finish this race strong.
Love that then, as Hajar's going to get the jump back on me. So is Valtteri Bottas and even Colapinto, I think. Nope, just Bottas and Russell just that ahead of us then. Oh, in this Grand Prix there, as obviously very cold tyres trying to get the power back down there, and that might leave us vulnerable to the Red Bull Nismo as well. I'm not going to try and defend from him too aggressively. It's just not worth it at the moment on two different strategies, as he is on the hard. So is Colapinto still going to try and stretch it to the end of the Grand Prix? I mean, Lando Norris is not out of this race either. He's still doing very, very well at the moment. But a Ferrari, an Italian in a Ferrari leading this race, I don't know when the last time that happened was, but it must have been a very long time ago. There we go then, starting to see a few more cars pour into the pit lane. So maybe we're just going to struggle towards the end of the afternoon. Obviously, we went a little bit more aggressive on this second stint there, as Verstappen in, as well as a couple of others, as Colapinto now trying to get around Valtteri Bottas' VW. I mean, depending on the popularity of this series, I could be tempted to obviously do another one, racing as, you know, one of the kind of new teams inside the game as well. I just thought running it as Apex GP, to be honest with you guys, I haven't got any driver career mode slots at the moment. So I had to do a My Team series, because I'm still waiting to wrap up the George Russell career mode. Obviously, once I've wrapped up that, then I've got another driver career mode slot inside of the game. So that was the main reason why I opted for this there, as Colapinto, well, incredibly slow out onto the back straight there, as George Russell in that Genesis there, going to try and get around the outside of him. And well, the slipstream is certainly incredibly potent inside this mod, because people are able to get moves done pretty nicely there. Can we get a run on Colapinto as well then? Obviously, he's still got the DRS, as he's going to try swing a bit defensive, a bit too late. Oh, contact! As we try and get down the inside there, as Colapinto kind of just turned across me a little bit. I wanted to give him a bit of a squeeze, but he kind of forced me to drag him off the road. As Joshua Pierce then into the pit lane. The final couple of corners, as you know, Colapinto definitely hasn't got damage in that contact there. We will still be ahead of Antonelli, but he is going to be quick towards the end of the race. And I still don't know what strat Colapinto's going with. Let's try and listen in. Can I just get an idea of what he's doing?
Tsunoda's ahead of you. Time last lap, 1 minute 23.3. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Okay, they've got 4 laps on their tyres. We think they've got 1 more stop.
There we go then, so no surprise there. Colapinto will be diving back into the pit lane again before the end. Just, of course, because a lot of the AI have swapped around, Mark doesn't quite know who's where. Here we go then, let's try and get a run on Colapinto once more. As whoa, I kind of completely forgot. Gabriel Bortoleto, though, still in that VW, actually having a very, very good race so far. Yet to pit, so is Carlos Sainz, so we should be back up into the podium places when those last couple of cars dive in. But yeah, I think Norris has already reclaimed the lead of the Grand Prix, so even though he needs to pit again, if he doesn't come out in much traffic, he will still be a threat towards the end of this race. So there you go then, immediately Sainz and Bortoleto both in for their stop, so they will be going to the checkered flag there, and it could still be a good weekend for them. But yeah, Hajar and Lando Norris way up the road now. So we've just got to wait for the race strategy to pan out. Colapinto still being a little bit awkward for me, as Antonelli, of course, he will enjoy fresh rubber right the way to the very end as well. So there's a lot of drivers still in the fight for the win. Well, there we go. There we go. Isaac Hajar back into the pit lane then. So back up into P2, as I would assume Lando Norris will re-emerge, or sorry, dive back into the pit lane, I should say, at the end of this lap. So Hajar's going to come out probably about 12, 13 seconds behind. Lando Norris is going to be probably still a good couple of seconds ahead of him. But at the moment, yeah, still I think our biggest pressure is going to come from Antonelli. As again, the tyres, they do kind of start to reach a bit of a cliff edge. Once you take them about 8 or 9 laps, they're manageable, But if you overcorrect, if you just judge it wrong, they will snap on you. There we go. If by magic, Lando Norris then into the pit lane as well. So this will be moment of truth time as Colapinto also dives it in from just behind us. It's actually a car just coming back out of the pit lane then, but back to the lead of the Australian Grand Prix there as Antonelli will move back up into P2. Maybe he can serve as a bit of a rear gunner here towards the end of the Grand Prix. Even Leclerc now back up to P3. Sainz is ahead of Lando Norris. So the two-stop strategy really has not worked out well for Lando Norris so far. But he should be insanely fast towards the end of the afternoon. It's actually Leclerc, though, at the moment that he's really flying along.
Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 18.9 seconds.
Oh, there you go, Lando Norris immediately now lighting up the timing screens as he sets a new fastest lap of the day. But I am really struggling to manage the tyres on this car at the moment. Antonelli has taken about a second out of me over the last couple of laps. But yeah, Lando Norris has taken 3 seconds out of me over the last couple of laps. So it's kind of interesting that both McLarens, both Ferraris, and both obviously Nismo Red Bulls have kind of converged on each other, or are still converging on each other towards the end of this Grand Prix. But when you take a look around the minimap as well, though, not that many cars staying particularly clumped up. So clearly the dirty air and the DRS effect does work a lot better in this mod. This is a lot more kind of like we'd see IRL, as Lando Norris now up into the podium places. This will be something we find this season. Two-stop strategies are a lot more viable than normal because the peak grip is just that much higher. 5 laps to go, though, and this is the other thing. Because the DRS is so much more potent, Lando Norris does seem to be able to try and move his way through other cars a lot quicker. Antonelli now trying to put up a bit of a defense, but he is costing them both time in the process. And, well, this is exactly what we need towards the end of the race there. But Hajar as well, fighting his way up through the order. He could still be a threat come the end of the GP for us, but if you've somehow been able to make Australia a really balanced race between a 1 and a 2 stop, goes to show just how much work has been put in kind of balancing this mod, making it really exciting here. Because, yeah, 4 laps to go, less than 4 seconds to Norris, but of course his tyres will also begin to hit the cliff. Oh, we've got yellows, I think that's Charles Leclerc. Looks like Charles Leclerc and Ferrari are going to be the first ones to suffer a mechanical failure then in this all-new series there, as pulling over out of turn 2. And Charles Leclerc, yeah, he will not be happy with that one. Ferrari will have to go back to the drawing board, work out just what went wrong. But yeah, there you go, our first retirement of the year. Maybe not a surprise to too many. Oh, we got another one. We got another one going. A T-Mobile Mercedes now dropping to the wayside here. Max Verstappen out of the Grand Prix as well. So 2 heavy hitters out of this Grand Prix. It has not been the season opener that Mercedes would have wanted. But now, yeah, the Dutchman joining the Monegasque man out on the side of the circuit. But suddenly now, though, with just under 3 laps remaining, Lando Norris, I think the gamble by McLaren has worked out maybe just a little bit too well for him. We've got a bit of battery to try and defend ourselves, but I don't think we're going to be able to do a lot at this stage of the Grand Prix, as that Santander McLaren car looked on rails on Saturday afternoon in that slippery qualifying session, and once again looks to be on rails as we get late into the Grand Prix there. Make sure that he can't get past me through the yellow flags, but with just 2 laps to go, Hajar now has moved past Andre Kimi Antonelli as well. And although we will try and do whatever we sensibly can, with how powerful the DRS is, sometimes you just got to accept that you have not got the speed to keep up there. As out of the final corner, here comes Lando Norris then. Is he going to have a look to the inside? Yes, he will. I'll try and give him a bit of a squeeze down towards the apex there through turn 1, but I mean, even then, I tried to brake late into turn 1, and Norris there, right around the outside, back up to the lead of the Grand Prix, he will go. He's left it late, but McLaren, they have faith in their 2-stop strategy, and it looks to have paid dividends. He's back in the dirty air. I just cannot stay close to him. And on to the final lap then, Lando Norris now just stretching his legs. finally has a chance to relax. He knows he's got the speed. He knows he's got the pace here on this final tour of the Australian Grand Prix there. And Santander McLaren, of course, it wasn't Alliance many, many years ago, if I remember correctly. But of course, then they went over to Ferrari. And obviously, Fernando Alonso couldn't quite wrap up a World Championship. Luckily for us, Norris gave me a little bit more DRS over the last couple of laps, and that might just have meant that I've got the gap over Isaac Hadjar as we get down in towards the final few corners. We might not be safe just yet, though. Maybe Hadjar can get a run off of that final turn, but as Lando Norris even laps one of our back markers here through the final couple of corners. McLaren are going to stand on the top step of the podium to kickstart the all-new series and the all-new campaign. Have I got enough to try and defend from Isaac Hadjar on the run towards the line? I think we just about will. P2 on debut.
Yes, mate, I'll take that. Well done. We're really happy with the podium down here, so well done. Yes.
And here he comes. It's all go, go, go for Lando Norris as he takes the checkered flag and wins.
Well, they kept us guessing during pre-season testing. We all wondered who it was going to be, and to have them draw it out here today, that they are the ones to beat, just goes to show that all the work they put in has really counted.
We had drama from start to finish, but in the end, there was only ever one that could take that top spot. He holds the trophy aloft, and why shouldn't he? A richly deserved win today for Lando Norris.
Well, there we are then. Lando Norris 3 seconds clear come the checkered flag. The two-stop strategy worked out beautifully for him, and he will be very, very happy to kickstart the new campaign with a victory. We come through for P2 ahead of Isaac Hadjar, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli just did not quite have the pace to hang on right at the very end there. Carlos Sainz, a bit of a lonely drive to P5 in the end ahead of Franco Colapinto, with Bortoleto, Pierce, Albon, and Paul Aron there gets himself into the top 10 as well, so a good job done by him. And despite VW looking pretty strong, neither of their cars, I believe. No, Bortoleto, did he end up in the points? No, Bortoleto obviously into your top 10 there. So ignore me come the end of the day. Just Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc that failed to see the checkered flag, and only Oscar Piastri that ended up one lap down. What does that do to our championship standings? Well, of course, it means that the drivers exactly the same as your final race results there. Quite a few teams able to get some points onto the board. Constructors-wise, though, Santander McLaren lead the way, 12 ahead of Nismo Red Bull, as we will be straight up into third ahead of Scuderia Ferrari. VW there just ahead of Mercedes, I guess in the battle of the Germans now inside this series, with Rocket Road in with a point on the board. Genesis Magma, Monster Ford Andretti, Chip Ganassi and Repsol Williams all failing to score a point here. Thank you all so much for watching though. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns out in Bahrain.